Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be telling you my story about how I was ghosted by a potential host family one time. It's a pretty funny story. You know, most of my content I try to make pretty relatable with a good lesson to it, and this is pretty much just au pair gossip. So there's nothing too fancy about this story. It did happen and I'm totally okay with it. Before I get into this video, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. Each new like and each new subscriber helps me keep up making content just like this, and it keeps pushing us along. This will be my 20th video, so thank you guys so much for your support so far. This video, like I said, is going to be about the time that I was ghosted by a host family in Austria. I have no ill will towards these people. They were super sweet people, and I would honestly probably be their au pair in the future. I don't know why they ghosted me, but they did. But yeah, it's totally cool. We're all good. If you've seen my other videos, you probably heard me talk about my au pair horror story where I was kicked out of somebody's house and I had to go and live with my former host family. And so during that time, I was looking for host families that I could stay with while I was still in Europe before I went home. Well, I didn't find any host families for the winter. I did find a ton of host families for the fall, and I ended up finding my host family that I'm going to live with in September. Super excited about it. And I found a bunch of others as well. During the time, I was only looking for host families in Germany, Austria, and Spain. My brother and I were taking a trip to Austria in late February, and I was hoping to meet a couple host families in Austria. We were just going to be in Vienna for 4 days, and in those 4 days I was set to meet 5 different host families, potential host families, for the next year. So that's kind of where this story picks up. We're actually going to go a little bit back in time, but with all that being said, let's jump right into this video. So now that you kind of have the gist of what was going on, this story starts right after I was kicked out of my other home. Like I said, I was looking for another host family, and I ended up matching with this host family on Au Pair World that seemed absolutely perfect for me. They were in Vienna, Austria. They were a young family with 2 boys. It was everything that I wanted in a host family on paper, and it just seemed absolutely perfect. Their start date was in March, which wasn't going to be ideal for me, but again, I was hoping that maybe we could start in September or later, or I probably could have done March, but it just wouldn't have been perfect for me. I sent the host family a message, and the mom responded within a couple days with interest. Now, before this seems too exciting, I should say, when I'm looking for a host family, it is a really long process, and I talked to a lot of host families. I think my 3rd time around when I was looking for my current host family, I talked to nearly 30 families on Au Pair World. I ended up doing either video or face-to-face interviews with like 14 or 15 of them, and then I ended up being able to choose between like 12 or something. So it is a big process, and it wasn't that big of a deal for me to just send her a message or to be talking back and forth with her, but the more we talked back and forth, the more I thought, wow, like we could really be compatible. The family had had 2 or 3 au pairs before, and the mom insisted on the boys being independent and everything that I was looking for in host kids and a host family. We had talked back and forth for a few days, and then I sent her a message, I can't remember, nothing too crazy, and she didn't respond for like a week's time. Essentially, she left me on red for a week. I thought it was strange, but again, it's not one of those things where I was really committed yet. I was still talking to a whole bunch of different host families, and so I just kind of let it slide. And after a week's time, I sent her another message just saying, hey, are you still interested, or have you already found someone? She responded within a couple days saying that they had found a girl who was already in Austria to be their au pair, but they really liked talking to me. They chose her because she could start immediately in March. Well, I sent them a message back saying that I enjoyed talking to them too, but my ideal start date was in September, not March. And so the mom was like, oh, well, that's perfect. Here's my email. We'll email for some more details, and maybe we can meet when you come to Vienna in February. The following day after I got that message, I sent the mom an email just kind of asking some more details, just general conversation that you do with host families when you're trying to figure out if you're compatible. She responded kind of spotty back and forth. It wasn't really good responses, but she was responding. And then once again, she pretty much left me on red for like 2 weeks. So this was twice that the mom had pretty much just stopped talking to me. And again, like it wasn't that big of a deal. I was meeting 4 other host families in Austria. It was not a big deal at all if they didn't want me to be their au pair, but I wish they would have just said it. So take a pause in the story here. If you haven't already watched my other video called my 6 red flags in host families, Go and watch that. After you watch this, I will put the link right up here actually. I had actually missed 2 red flags in this host family, one of which is bad communication. We were already having bad communication before I ever met them. And then the other one was they didn't seem that excited about having me. So those were 2 red flags that I was already seeing just in the emailing process. 2 days before I flew to Austria, the mom set up a time for me to come to their house in the suburbs of Vienna and meet her, meet her husband, meet the kids and all that stuff. 2 days before I flew to Austria. It was a little stressful and last minute, but it was kind of a chill trip anyway. My brother and I didn't have a lot we were planning on doing. I was pretty much just there to interview with these potential host families. About this time, I started talking with the host family that I ended up choosing in Seville, and I just fell in love with them. The mom was super sweet. She was very open, super fast to respond. So I was talking with the host families in Austria, and then I narrowed it down to just that one host family in Spain. So 4 in Austria, 1 in Spain. The last thing I'll have to say about this part of the story is during the email process, the mom didn't give me a whole lot of information about the family or about the kids, and normally that would have been a red flag for me, but again, I was planning on meeting them anyway, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. I just thought, well, you know, I'll ask when I meet them in person. 2 days later, my brother and I flew from Madrid to Vienna, and I actually met my first host family that very night. Like, we got there and I immediately got on a train and went to meet them. They were super sweet people, but we just didn't click. And the next day I was set to meet this host family that ultimately ghosted me. So the next day rolled around, and before I tell you any more about the story, I should say at this point, I had pretty much narrowed it down before even meeting these people to this family and the family back in Seville, just by what I was reading and how we'd communicated so far. So I already had high hopes for them. But that morning, I took a train to their city and the whole family picked me up at the train station. It was really sweet actually. And then they took me back to their house. On the car ride back to the house, it was like 10-ish minutes. The first thing I noticed was the whole family, especially the kids, spoke flawless English. This wasn't that weird for me because I knew in Austria a lot of people did speak English, but not normally to this level. I mean, the kids even had a British accent. And when I asked them about it, the parents told me that they used to live in the UK for like 2 or 3 years for the dad's job, and the kids learned English there and so did the parents. But still, they didn't tell me this beforehand, and it was a very pleasant surprise. Coming from Spain, where practically none of the children spoke any English at all, these kids spoke fluent British English. So this next part of the story, we drive up and we're in this really nice neighborhood, and they're like, oh yeah, this is our neighborhood, it's 10 minutes from the language school, and you know, telling me all these things. And I was just really distracted because I hadn't even really got to explore Vienna yet. I mean, the night before I got back in from meeting the other host family at like 10 p.m. and then it was like 10 o'clock when I met these people the next day. So I was looking out the window, kind of half distracted, when we pull up at their house, and it is this massive mansion. The biggest house I've ever seen in my entire life. We pull up to these people's houses, and I am just awestruck. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. We got out of the car and they showed me inside. They showed me the car that would have been mine if I was their au pair, and kind of showed me around the backyard. I mean, this house was so big. I had never seen another house like it. Had a heated swimming pool. I mean, it was crazy, super crazy. And like I said, I was pretty much just awestruck. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. When we went inside the house, the kids and I kind of played around for a bit, and immediately, like, the kids and I just bonded right off the bat. They were 9 and 6, and we were just like best buds from the get-go. They took me upstairs, the kids did, and they showed me what would have been my room. The kids and I were to share the second floor of the house, and it was super big. The second floor of their house was probably as big as the first floor of my house here in the US, which was pretty big. And I would have had my own room, a living room, and a small kitchen, and my own bathroom. And the kids each had individual rooms as well, and they were super huge rooms. Super cool. They had climbing ropes in them. It was just a really cool house. Like, I was in love. I like interior design. If you can see, I have like this cool geometric wall behind me, and this house was just beautifully designed. I mean, the mom and I talked about interior design for probably half an hour. I mean, it was so cool. I just loved it. But the kids and I were really good matches, and the longer I was with them, the more I could see, like, wow, like I was falling in love with these people. Before I came to meet them, I was pretty much all but sold on the family family in Spain. Like, I was 99% sure that I was going to live with them. But then after meeting these people in Austria, I was like split halfway down the middle, 50-50, and I was so torn. And even just while I was still in their house, I was like, man, this is gonna be a super hard decision to make when the time comes to make the decision. After the kids showed me their rooms, the parents and I went downstairs and kind of talked more of the business side of being an au pair. I just asked about their family, and they asked about me and things of that nature. They told me that their next au pair, the one who was in Austria, they told me that she was arriving next week from Phoenix, Arizona. Well, it was strange because they had just told me like 2 weeks prior that they picked this girl because she was already in Austria. And so their story wasn't really adding up here, but again, I kind of looked past it because I was just so awestruck in the moment. Like, I was so amazed by their beautiful house and their super sweet kids that I did look past this little lie. I'm glad that I noticed it at the time because it was a little discrepancy in their story, and I'm not really comfortable with that. But they said that she was arriving the next week and she was wanting to stay through the summer and then go home in August, which is where I would pick up in early September and stay for a year. This all sounded perfect to me because that's exactly what I wanted to do. I was planning on going back to Spain anyway in the summer, so I would have spent the summer in Spain and then gone to Austria in the fall. It sounded perfect. And the job, the more they talked about it, the more I realized just how perfect I was to match with their family. I mean, we were just perfect in every way, and they seemed really interested in me too. By the end of the visit, they had pretty much straight up asked me if I would be their next au pair, and I didn't say yes, but I also didn't say no. We didn't talk about money or anything like that while I was at their house, and I wanted to talk with the Spanish host family before I made any decisions as to my definite plans. So I left their house, they drove me back to the train station. The kids even hugged me before I left, which is really weird. I thought the Austrians were like very cold people, and so it was really sweet, but I was absolutely awestruck and so torn between them and the host family in Spain. So the very next day after leaving their house, I sent the host mom in Austria and the host mom in Spain the same exact email asking about pocket money, insurance, driving, essentially all the business aspects of being an au pair. Within 24 hours, my future host mom, the one who I'm actually going to live with in Spain, responded, and she responded very clearly and just very honest with me, which I very much appreciated, and that's something that I really appreciate still about the family. They're always very honest with me. Well, a day passed, and 2 days passed, 3 days passed, and eventually a whole week passed before I had heard back from the Austrian host mom. At this point, I felt kind of bad because the Spanish host family had already given me all the information that I needed to make my decision, but I didn't want to tell them anything until I heard from the Austrian host family. The Spanish host family was essentially waiting on me to give them a decision, and in the meantime, they weren't talking with any other au pairs. So it was really sweet and patient on their part, but I was definitely getting a bit impatient with the Austrian host family. After 8 days, I finally got an email back from the mom where she said that the au pair that they were getting from Arizona decided to stay through the fall, through December, which meant that they would not need me for the next year. They said that while they liked me, they thought it would be best if they had one au pair, if nothing else, just for the kids, to not have to change so much. And I agree, I completely agree with that. And like I said, I have no hard feelings toward these people. It was definitely a weird experience, especially considering I met them in person. I've definitely had situations in the past where host families just didn't respond to messages, but this was particularly odd considering that we hit it off so well, and I was pretty much positive that they had offered me the job. The host mom said that we would stay in touch and maybe next year I could be their au pair after this one left, and honestly that sounds great to me. They were super sweet people. That's the story. In the end, it worked out really great because it made my decision much easier, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be going to live in Seville with the host family that I've chosen. They are simply the sweetest people. I hope they watch this, and I hope they know that I'm so excited to be their au pair. But that is the story of how I was ghosted by a host family. I know there's not a lot of lessons to be gathered there, but it is definitely good entertainment. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, like and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and I'll be posting new content every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Adios.